At the risk of sounding like a local news team,
I can't believe it.
I can't believe.
Can you believe it?
I don't believe you.
I can't believe it's
Hard to believe it. Hard to believe it. Hard to believe it.
it's hard to believe we've already been in Shkodër for 6 months. In this video, we're going to talk about the 5 ingredients which blend to make up the personality of a place: transportation, cost of living, food, culture, and people. Real quick, let's bring the newbies up to speed. We arrived here on April 1st, having left our home in Santa Cruz, California on one-way tickets with 4 suitcases and 2 backpacks to start a new life in a place we had never been to before. It's like reading the review of a restaurant you've never been to, or hearing a sommelier describe a wine you've never tasted. Once you do taste it, the encounter will be yours alone. Until you taste it for yourself, your awareness is based purely on someone else's experience. 6 months feels like a good milestone for a progress report. It's important to be flexible and roll with the punches when things don't go to plan. See our Comedy of Errors video for more on that. Since we've been here, we've put together an online course to help folks skip the bumps we hit along the way. Our course doesn't lead you to a particular place, it's a path out. Go wherever your compass points. Dreaming won't move you. Doing will. One of the most noticeable things about Shkodër, especially as compared to other cities in Albania, is the sheer number of bicycles. The town's very flat, so you can get anywhere on foot or by bike. And there have been bicycles here at least as far back as 1897. And by 1915, the police were using them. Nowadays, nearly 1 in 3 locals, regardless of age, gender, or size, use a bike for daily needs. There aren't really rules about traffic or direction for cyclists. They often just ride right through intersections without stopping or turn onto busy streets without even looking. See, the bike culture predates the car. So, especially among the older folks, there seems to be the outlook that like, hey, we were here first. You yield. You'll regularly see women in dresses and heels, men in suits, elderly folks, Muslim women wearing hijabs and abayas, and nuns in their brown Franciscan habits, all traversing the streets of Shkodër by bicycle. Scooters and motorbikes are also popular. Even the old mopeds that were all over Santa Cruz when I was a kid back in the 80s are still tooling around over here. It's interesting how quickly we've gotten used to not having a car. If we did, honestly, it would just sit in the garage most of the time, only coming out for rides to the airport or the occasional road trip, which are arguably what rental cars were invented for. As you saw in the Velapoya video, we took a minibus to the beach that day. Everywhere else we've shown you so far, we walked. Road rage isn't a thing in Shkodër. People are much more patient here. In our neighborhood, there are regularly group processions just meandering down the street with no obvious destination in mind. And the cars just stack up behind them until they move aside. There's no equivalent to the ADA here, but since most of the city is pedestrian-friendly, you can usually find routes that work for wheelchairs or other mobility devices. Ramps and handrails are less common. In our neighborhood, when the sidewalk isn't accessible due to, like, cafe tables or something, folks in wheelchairs just move into the street or the bike lane, where they're greeted by a respectful buffer and reduced speeds. Moving to cost of living. The first thing I want to mention is the misconception that apartment rentals max out at 400 euros countrywide in Albania. I don't know where this idea came from, but it seems to be pretty widespread. And this is important because expats and tourists alike need to be sensitive to economic realities. Paying more for housing just because you can drives up costs for locals. This very thing is one of the factors that drove us out of Santa Cruz, so we're damn sensitive to it. Stick to market value. Learn what is on offer. and discuss the market with your agent. They know the city best and earn their living based on their reputation. The fact is, just like every city on the planet, housing in Shkodër comes in various shapes and sizes. There are derelict-looking communist-era buildings. There are old stone buildings with tile roofs on the same block as brand-new stucco-clad multi-story apartments. On the edge of town and further out, there are detached single-family homes and even villas. You can absolutely find a perfectly nice 2-bedroom apartment in Shkodër for around 400 euros. It's not going to be luxurious. It may or may not have a working elevator, but it will be perfectly livable and in a safe area close to everything you need. From there, take a short walk and you'll find a luxury 2-bedroom with all the amenities for 800 euros or more. We're in the mid-range at 600 euros for our 2-bed, 2-bath, fully renovated apartment. In the context of this video, the point is that where we came from, this apartment would rent for well over $5,000 per month. So the cost of living impact for us has been huge when it comes to housing. We now live in a city that most people can't find on a map. And somehow, we've got faster, more stable internet here than we ever had a stone's throw from Silicon Valley. In Shkodër, we pay 1,500 lek a month, less than $18, for fiber internet that runs anywhere from 200 to 500 MPS, and I'm still amazed how fast videos upload from here. Add our VPN, whole thing, just over $20. You can't even get lunch for that back home. We were paying 3 times more for a slower, less reliable service that would just randomly drop for no apparent reason. What about utilities? Having grown up in drought-prone California, we're both very conscious of conserving water. Wendy a bit more than me. I do love a long hot shower. But before I get to the actual numbers, keep in mind that the appliances in this apartment are all brand new energy-efficient models, and we're in the habit of conserving energy, so your results may vary. In our first 3 months in this apartment, which is all we have numbers for so far, here's what we spent. For water, in June, July, and August, we spent $5.25, $16.24, and $12.58, respectively. For electricity, those same months were $29.03, $35 and a penny, and $52.41. So the most expensive combined month we've had so far was August at $65. In Santa Cruz, the average combined utility bill for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment clocks in between $140 and $210 per month. It's now mid-October, and we haven't used the AC or even the fan in weeks. So our next power bill should be even lower than June's. Now,
Winter is coming.
and the great domestic divide begins. Wendy hates being hot, and I detest being cold. We often went round and round about running the heat back in California, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Subscribe to the channel to find out. Back home, Wendy paid for garbage and recycling service at her cottage in the mountains. Here in Shkodër, there is no curbside trash pickup, and recycling hasn't been implemented yet. You walk your garbage to a set of community dumpsters in your neighborhood. We'll be covering this in more detail in a future video. The question of food is one you'll see hotly contested in online forums. It's a very subjective topic because eating habits and dietary decisions factor hugely into what people spend. We buy a lot of fresh local produce directly from the people who grow it, which is super affordable. We've done 2 videos which cover this in more detail. When buying groceries here, it pays to keep your eye on the packaging. Products from Italy or Greece are often placed right next to domestic items. Imported goods carry additional costs. So get to know what other languages look like, too. to tell Greek from Italian from Macedonian, for example. In general, food costs follow the same trend we've seen so far, unless you're dead set on eating like you did at home. For example, we are big fans of Best Foods mayonnaise, Hellmann's, east of the Rockies. At home, this was non-negotiable, so we were very excited to find it on shelves here and are willing to pay a premium for it. If you're on a specialized diet, like vegan or gluten-free, you'll need to be more vigilant here than in most of the US. Not everything is as clearly labeled as you might be used to. Likewise for food allergies. If you follow the when in Rome mindset, you could save a ton of money and discover some awesome new foods. Which leads us to the next section. There are similarities in food culture throughout the Balkans, with each country having its own unique spin. Albania, at least along the coastline and very much here in Shkodër, has a heavy Italian influence that melds deliciously with the traditional cuisine. There's also a lot of purely authentic Italian cuisine all over town. Cheese is taken very seriously, which we are not mad about. Cow, sheep, and goat cheeses are available in roughly equal measure. The varieties of yogurts and sour cream-like deliciousness are fun to explore. Various levels of thickness and tartness and saltiness all lend themselves well to different kinds of applications. We're still getting accustomed to buying fresh meat. When we look into a butcher shop, we can't always identify what's in the case. Beef here is usually veal, not always, and not the slowly tortured milk-fed veal we all remember from back in the day. Meatballs are kind of a big thing here, and I'm a huge fan. I described this a little bit in the sandwich and a haircut video. You got your shofta, your kebab, your gyofta, and your polpetta. Other than some of them being cylindrical rather than spherical, we're not sure what distinguishes one from another. We've had them grilled, roasted, and hot off the griddle. Alone on a plate, inside a bun, or accompanied by sauces, beans, and peppers at Cosmos in Skopje, Macedonia. I'm not sure exactly what they put in them that makes them so darn good, but I mean to find out. Food names don't always translate into English well. A good strategy is to ask your server which dishes are the most popular. And no matter what Gordon Ramsay says,
If you come across a menu with photographs, get the fuck out of there.
pictures in menus come in real handy when there's a language barrier. You can also just punt and use Google Translate. It's not great at Albanian, and it tends to crap out when you need it most, but it's still worth having. Restaurant operating hours can be hit or miss, with some places seeming to open purely on a whim. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're done with our lunch.
Oh, so good.
It was really good.
Oh my God, it was so good.
But this is the 5th time we've come here in the middle of the day, and the 2nd time that we've been able to actually come in and eat anything, because they're always here and stuff, but they go, oh yeah, we're not serving until 7:30.
Or 8 o'clock even.
The first time we came here, it was like 1 o'clock. Today it was like 1 o'clock. Other times we've come here, 1, 2, 3, and they're like,
4, 5, 6.
oh yeah, no, we only serve dinner. And it's like hours on the door, like 10:30 in the morning until 10:30 at night or something like that. And so you just never know. What you have to do is just go, walk in and go, are you serving food? And they'll either say yes or no.
It's so random.
It is, it's random. So as always, be willing to improvise. Stolia is a very popular coffee shop. There's an item on their menu I get nearly every time we go. An item that I refused on principle to never order back home. Avocado toast. You see, back in the day in Santa Cruz, when you didn't have time for a proper breakfast, you'd smear half an avo onto a piece of toast and run out the door. Simple, quick, and more than anything else, cheap.
I prefer French toast sticks.
And the outrageous prices they charge are just insulting. Average price for avocado toast back home starts at like $8, and typically it's more like $11.50 or $12. So for the first time in my life, I ordered it here. And here it's 2 pieces of toast with avo, mozzarella, tomato, salami, sesame seeds, and an egg for under $5. Maybe it's the balsamic glaze that adds the additional $6 back home. I should take a moment to point out that if you want to spend a lot of money on food and drink here, you totally can. There are places that go out of their way to feel exclusive just so they can overcharge. Here's the thing. You can go to really, really nice restaurants where all they want is to serve good food and make a living for themselves and their staff, rather than just test how much money they can squeeze out of you. Those are the places where we like to spend our money and want to share with you. Like Retro Sushi Pub, where you can get sushi at fair prices in this amazing atmosphere with a full bar and a rooftop deck. Servers here are not expected to turn tables the way they are back home. Meals, or even a single cup of coffee, can last for hours. No one tries to rush you out to free up the table, and servers are paid a living wage, so they don't depend on tips to survive. Which brings me to a topic we've done some digging on. People do tip here, often just by leaving the change on the table. Tipping is appreciated by servers and bartenders, but they don't expect it. We've described our tipping habits in previous videos and been chastised by a few folks who claim that by doing what they consider over-tipping, we're ruining the serving staff for people who tip less. First, we tip far less here than we did at home, usually about 10%. But even if you choose to tip 20% like you would in the States, you're not going to ruin anything. Everyone has heard stories of people dropping massive tips at everyday restaurants, and no one ever says that the people who tip a normal amount are ruined by it, or that the staff now expects everyone to tip that way. It's just a silly criticism. If you like your server and they provide excellent service, feel free to leave them a gratuity. Just don't feel like you need to be extravagant about it. Coffee is big here. The number of bar cafes is staggering, and most of them do a brisk business throughout the day. Coffee and smoking often go hand in hand, and that is definitely true here. Almost 23% of the population smokes. So if you're out in the world, you will be around smokers. This is one of those things that you should have your eyes wide open about if you're planning to come here. You may find it rude or obnoxious that the people at the next table are smoking while you're eating, but it comes with the territory. Many countries around the world are like this. If you're particularly sensitive to secondhand smoke, we advise that you do a deep dive into wherever you're planning on going to learn what the smoking culture is. Side note, the day tends to start pretty early here, and then there's a lull in early to mid-afternoon. We're still trying to identify exactly how it works or if there's anything even predictable about it. But when evening arrives, the people return, once again filling the restaurants and cafes. Moving on to history and culture. One thing we found refreshing is the religious tolerance. Before moving, we read up on the stats and percentages of Christians and Muslims living peacefully side by side. But coming from America, where hatred towards the other is not only palpable, but is becoming some people's very identity, the contrast in Albania is a welcome change. Countrywide, the Muslim majority, many of whom are secular, has dropped to just over 50%. This is mostly due to the non-religious community growing. Shkodër in particular is unique because it's Albania's Catholic center. Countrywide, they're just over 8% of the population, but in Shkodër, it's closer to 50%. Depending on the time of day, you'll hear either the call to prayer emanating from the minarets or a cacophony of church bells clanging throughout the day. Anyway, Personally, from a purely auditory standpoint, we prefer the soothing notes of the call to prayer. Our building is basically triangulated by 3 of the largest churches in town, all with bell towers. Let's just say sleeping past 7 a.m. isn't really a thing on this side of town. During the day, men and women tend to socialize separately, but again, this isn't written in stone, it's just tradition. You'll see them congregating at outdoor cafes, elevating being in the moment to an art form. Young schoolgirls walk hand in hand, one wearing a hijab and one not. The second may be Christian, atheist, or maybe another Muslim who just doesn't wear the hijab. Religion here is personal and no one else's business. It is respected and private. There's no proselytizing here, street corner or otherwise. People just live and let live. During the summer, weddings are a daily phenomenon, not just on Fridays and Saturdays. You'll know a wedding procession by the incessant honking of horns. This is particularly noticeable in our neighborhood since there's so many churches. Antiquity is everywhere. You don't have to make the hike to the castle either. Just take a walk. Some of the streets are still paved in marble. Visit the numerous museums or explore outside the city center to the fortresses and bridges that dot the countryside. More recent history is revealed by the buildings and bunkers from the communist era, now inhabited by ghosts who tell the story of those dark decades within our lifetime. Some of those buildings are being reborn through renovation, with brand new modern buildings going up right beside them. History is honored and remembered here. The old and the new cohabit. Churches and mosques exist side by side, just as the people do. The people create a culture. People make the food, the music, the traditions. They are the heart and the soul of any place. We've made several friends already, both expats and locals, and many more acquaintances who've come to see us as more neighbors than visitors. This is a small city. You come to realize that when you see the same people over and over again. As Americans, we stand out in a crowd no matter how we try to blend. We've talked about this before, and virtually every American we've met has said the same. To our eyes, Albanians tend to come off as like stern or gruff, standoffish. In America, societally, we're taught to approach people with an open, head up, chest out, big smile kind of energy. Ted Lasso, in other words. That just isn't a thing here. Folks are more reserved, especially around outsiders. They're not rude or aggressive, they just seem aloof or unimpressed. But once they open up, you quickly realize how off that initial impression was. We're constantly taken aback by the warm, welcoming people of our adopted hometown. Back in early summer, Wendy asked this group of guys having a beer at their favorite spot if she could film them. Here's their response. There are the ubiquitous groups of men playing dominoes and backgammon all around the city. Sometimes on tables in the park, often just on a cardboard box on the sidewalk. Many women dressed to the nines every day of the week. The shoes, the hair, the handbags, they don't miss a detail. When we walk down Guhadal Street or the pedestrian promenade, we're now regularly greeted by people who've come to know us. One of the first waiters we had here recently told us he still remembers the first time we were at his restaurant. It wasn't until this conversation that we learned his name.
This is our favorite waiter from BAM. What's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin! What's your name again?
My name's Kevin.
What?
Right across from his place is Mutza Bistro, where our friend Sarah works.
And then Musa is right over there.
And then Musa's over there.
And there's Sarah.
And there's Sarah. And we love her too.
The guys who run the Irish Monkey Pub have welcomed us too. We often see questions in expat forums and our own comment section, asking in one form or another, do people speak English there? We understand the concern. It's scary and intimidating to be going to a place where you don't know the language. But there's a better way to approach it. Rather than asking, do they speak my language? Release the expectation that the world will adapt to you and make it clear that you're willing to make an effort. When people see that you're willing to be vulnerable and step outside of your comfort zone, especially as an American, they will often bend over backward to help you. This has definitely been our experience in Shkodër. We're proud to call this place our new home. Never imagined that we would be welcomed here so easily and quickly. Proof that in this life, the energy you put out has a way of finding its way back. The people here are kind. They tend to be a bit shy at first, but they're warm. They are good. Thanks as always for watching. See you in the next one.